without further delay, I would like to hand over to Toby for his insights about people and culture in Agile Transformation. But before that, Meghna is the co-host along with me in this session. If there are, we'll be facilitating this session. For participants, you'll be able to see Toby, you'll be able to hear what Toby says, but participants will remain muted and will remain invisible throughout the sessions. If you have any questions or anything that you want to interact with the speaker, please type in the chat section. There is a feed that you can type in, and any question and answers, any questions that you have, you can type in the Q&A section. Okay, and I hand it over
And
to
the session is being recorded, right, Ram?
yeah, this is recorded. This session is automatically recorded. Yep.
Okay.
Any questions, Toby, before myself,
No?
Meghna
I'm
will
good.
disappear? When I say disappear, we'll go hidden, but we'll be still in the meeting.
Okay. I'm excited, uh, to present at Amar Shonar Bangla.
Wow.
All right. Thank you, Ram. Thank you, Meghna. Hello, everybody. Everybody in India and from across the globe. I'm super excited to be here today. One of my favorite topics, and I have a very, very special bond with Calcutta or Kolkata, and I'm so excited. So when I first applied for this long time ago, my hope was that I would come and present, in person, and also get to go home, which is Jamshedpur, which is not too far from Calcutta. But things changed, and it's a virtual, but still we're going to make the best out of it. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So why are we here today? We have taken time, and you have chosen to be in my session. So let's go over, why we are here. So one is that, we want to understand the context for change when it comes to transformation, right? You shouldn't, or nobody should be doing transformation just for the sake of it. So we'll understand that. And then what is the people side of change and why is it important? And then we'll talk about culture. We will discuss 9 top factors that impede success. And then we'll talk about some drivers. What really drives organizational culture and change? And what are some of the challenges that happen because of organizational change management? And last but not least, what will you who are attending the session today, now that you have learned all these things, how can you apply this change? So that's the agenda for today, and a lot of information to share. And this is a much shorter window than I typically present this in. Typically it's an hour, but because it's 40 minutes, it's a couple of slides. I may not go too deep on it, but I will make myself available if anybody has questions afterwards, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. But I will try to share as much as possible in the time that we have. All right, so with that, let's get started. Why transform? I mean, you hear it everywhere, and everybody's saying this. It's a buzzword. We are going agile, and you hear that all across. And the big question is, why are you transforming? So this is an important question to ask, whether you are part of the transformation team or whether your organization is going through this transformation. I think it's important to know. And just to quote Jared Spoor, who is an expert on the subjects of usability, software design, and research. So it was very interesting. I was reading somewhere. He said he has learned that there are 2 types of organizations. Organizations that are currently struggling through a major transformation. And the second type is organizations that don't know that they are struggling through a major transformation. So either way, any organization that's going through a transformation is going through struggles. I mean, that's the reality. Change is difficult, and any transition can be painful, but understanding why how and what of the transformation can help you with that. So, why transform? So the simple answer is that all organizations are looking for three fundamental outcomes, right? That's what it boils down to. Faster, more efficient, and better. So anything that you think of, whatever the reasons in your organization, if these three are not the reasons for your transformation, you need to rethink why are you transforming. And oftentimes it happens that, hey, all the companies in our line of work have become agile and we have not. So let's become agile. That's the wrong reason for it. One thing that I like to say is that, agile is not the destination. Nobody wants to be agile just to be agile. Agile is a way of achieving business goals, right? So you want faster time to market. You want to reduce some of your or remove some of these unnecessary steps that you may have and become more efficient. And then better, you want to be and serve and sell products that people want, right? So that's the goal. So with that, let's jump into some statistical data. So this information that I'm sharing is from the 14th State of Agile report, and this is from May 2020. I have not altered any data. It's just a copy paste here. I did add the arrows and the legend. So when I looked at this, what jumped out at me was, out of the 12 top challenges when adopting and scaling Agile, 9 are directly related to people and culture. You see, there are some which are deep purple, some are purple and red. Red is culture, purple is culture and red is people. And there are just 2 or 3 which have people in it, but everything is related to culture. And basically what it says is that internal culture is still a major obstacle, internal culture. And that is very interesting, right? That so many of them are related to culture and people. So that jumped out at me. And then I go a little deeper to see, how mature are organizations when it comes to agile maturity. And it was very surprising to me that only 16% of all these organizations that were surveyed claim that they are producing value and have high competency. Only 16%. And then 84% are below the immature. They are below the maturity level, and an astounding 54% they are using, but they're not mature yet. I think that's where most of the organizations are today. And then about 30% have little or no agile. So I don't think the industry thought that here's where they would be 20 years after the manifesto was written, right? Next month, or in February, which is actually next week, Agile becomes 20 years old. So in 20 years, this is not, at least I thought there would be a lot more people instead of that 16%. So why? The question is why? Why is the maturity low across the organizations, in spite of thousands of coaches, thousands of books on this? And Agile itself is simple, right? Agile is not complex. And Scrum is not complex. It's pretty simple. But yet, so many organizations are unable to get the benefits that they want out of it. So the big question again is why. I always start with why, like the Simon Sinek book. I start with why. So the reason that comes to my mind is that transformation is hard. Transformation is very hard. You know how to do things a certain way, and then you have to change things, and change is difficult. Personal change is difficult. Even making some change in your family for something is difficult. And imagine a whole organization going through transformation. It really is hard, right? So how many of you who have gone through some transformation, and just think in your minds, how did that transformation go? And if it went south, which I think, might be in some cases, please think in your mind, and if you have a notepad, please write down what were the reasons for going down, for the transformation going down. So just take a minute to do that. I think it's important. And with that, for the next slide, I would need the help of Ram or Meghna. So I would like some audience participation. If I was doing this face to face, I would have asked questions, but we are in a virtual setting. So think in your mind, what impedes transformation? What gets in the way? Like this sheep, which is blocking the road. What gets in the way? So in the chat window, if you can please put, one or two words based on your experience, what gets in the way of transformation? And I would like to request Meghna or Ram to read out just maybe 3 or 4.
Sure, Toby. I see that people are typing in the responses, but I would give
Sure.
like a minute.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
And different organizations will have different impediments. It all depends on whether you're early, whether you have done it for some time and you're still going through it, whether it's a pilot or a pilot was done and now they're spreading the transformation across the organization, whether it's a federal government or a state government transformation or a small company. So many things do get into that play, but very interested to see a couple of ideas that you guys come up with as to what impedes transformation.
I do see some responses, Toby. I'll just read
Okay.
it. Yeah, there are in fact a lot of responses. People
awesome.
People mindset, lack of leadership, lack of motivation. I see a lot of people typing in resistance to change.
Yes, big one. Yeah.
That's a big one. Belief system, fear, lack of knowledge, time constraints. People doesn't want to leave their comfort zones. The past culture or the organization culture doesn't have a sufficient knowledge about the transformation goal.
Yeah, that's good. Ram, that's awesome. I think I'm so amazed that we have very engaging audience who have experience with this. So excellent responses. And Ram, if possible, I would love to get a screenshot or a copy of that after the session, if possible.
Definitely. I'll take a screenshot and pass it over to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I think you guys hit it on the nail on the head. Excellent responses. So here are the 9, according to me. I've been part of many transformations, and I've led a few. And like you, I had a list of the things that go wrong. But this is through my lens. This is through Toby's lens. These are the 9 top ones, right? This is not from a book. This is from me. So one, the top one that actually they're not in a particular order, but the one is that misdiagnosing the scope and impact of the changes. So if you don't know what you're going to change and what impact is going to create, that is going to be a problem. And I heard somebody talk about resistance to change. That's a huge one. And in fact, in my experience, the biggest resistance to change comes from middle management. Typically, the leadership, they get on board, and typically the people who have hands on keyboard, developers, testers, everybody else, they get along with the program as well. A lot of the people who are in the middle level, right, project managers, others, who feel that their jobs are threatened, and who also feel that there is going to be a loss of power, they are the ones who resist this a lot. So I would encourage you to take a screenshot of this or take a picture of this, because I think this is important. I think this is one of the main slides. A lot of information is hidden, in these stickies here. Um, One thing that I find often is that leaders, they sometimes feel like, okay, we hired some coaches, we hired a company to do the transformation for us, we are paying them money, and we told them our goals, and our job is done. They will do the transformation. And that is a recipe for failure. Unless leadership champions the change, unless they are going to be part of that change, unless they are supporting the change, and unless people start seeing changes in them, it's not going to work. So I'm not going to go through each one of them. We're going to cover some of them in the next few slides. In the interest of time, I'm going to move forward. The struggle is real, right? This struggle is real. It is every day. If you are in an organization that is going through transformation, there is always going to be this problem. Rock, paper, scissors. So there is a framework that I actually like, which is very simple, which is people, process, and technology, which is called PPT. And although the topic of today is more focused on people and culture, I think it would be naive to think that you can do or you can bring about change without the use of technology. So all three are important. People, process, and technology, all three are important. They have to be balanced. It's like a stool with three legs. Automation, DevOps, and the use of these modern tools, especially now, and the cost savings that come from technology, and also having that architecture which can support the transformation is important. So good leaders, they balance all three, but you got to pay importance to the culture and people. And why is that? It is because we operate in a VUCA world, right? There is the volatility, which is the dynamics of change, which is happening every day. There are so many things which are unknowns to us, which brings uncertainty. And any transformation is going to be complex. So many tiers, so many people, so many thought processes. Somebody used the word belief, absolutely, and ambiguity. When you're going through transformation, nobody knows what's going to happen, a month from now. So there is a lot of ambiguity, and especially when communication is not done properly from top down, people feel that there's so many unknowns, and also is lack of clarity. So how do you make progress in a VUCA world? So one is sharing a clean and clear vision right from the beginning, ensuring that everybody who's part of the transformation, whether they're impacted by it or whether they're leading it, they have a good shared understanding of the why, the what, the how of the transformation. That is extremely important. And knowing that there is complexity, try to bring clarity as much as possible, right? As managers, as leads, share information with your teams. And last but not least, you reduce ambiguity by being agile, by bringing agility into that, and just taking few things at a time and being as transparent as possible. Some of these things can be solved. With that, I'm sure you have heard about a very, very famous quote by Peter Drucker, which says, "Culture will eat strategy for breakfast." And it's very, very true. So what we call Murphy's Law, or in India we call it Murthy's Law, which is anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So culture eats strategy for breakfast. So make sure that you know what resistant, what is the beliefs of the people, and when you're putting together the strategy, keep that in mind. That's extremely important. So with that, we talk so much about culture, and that's the main topic for today, right? So what is culture? So, it's the word culture is difficult to define. It's like the word love. I mean, so many books, poetry, literature is written about the word love. Everybody experiences it, but you ask anybody to define what is love, they're like, it's difficult. So same with culture. The word, we know what it means, right? We know what it does. But if you ask anybody, hey, what is culture? It's difficult to explain, right? So in my mind, culture is nothing but shared values, attributes, and the characteristics of an organization. I don't know about you, but whenever I'm changing jobs and I'm looking at any organization, I always go to Glassdoor and try to understand what is the culture of this organization. What are, how do they operate? What are the characteristics? What do they value? So, and I'm sure so many people do the same, right? They ask people, if somebody's working there, they'll ask, hey, how is it to work there? What do they value? What gets rewarded? So many other things. So absolutely, so much importance of culture. And again, going back to the 14th state of Agile report, they said that, culture is still a thing. Culture is still a thing. So the question is, what comes first, culture or transformation? So think about that in mind. It's like the horse or cart. And I think it's both, right? There is already going to be some culture there. And by transforming, you are going to be changing some of that belief systems a little bit. And hopefully, the cultural resistance will come down a little bit. And after the transformation, there is going to be a slightly modified culture. And it's extremely difficult to change culture of any organization. So now that we have kind of understood what culture means and also know that it is valuable and it's important from a transformation perspective, let's look at the 4 drivers of culture. So the 4 drivers of culture is behaviors, work culture, paradigms, and execution patterns. Sorry, I think I went... okay. So what is behavior? So this is how do people behave in that organization, in groups or in organizations. And also keep in mind that we need to look at the behaviors of leaders as well. I've been in some organizations where nobody talks in the meetings. Everybody talks after the meeting. Said, oh, why did he say that? Why did he do this way? So, there's a lot of backtalk, but nobody gives ideas in those meetings. And then you have to look into why don't they do that? Next is work culture. So culture really is, how does work get done in your organization? Is it command and control? Somebody tells you what to do. Somebody tells you what not to do. Somebody actually tells you how to do your job. If that is the culture, then that is going to be toxic. It's not going to be sustainable. But you can learn a lot about an organization based on how they're doing this. Next is paradigms. So this is important, very important. And again, it's another word which is hard to describe, but it's the assumptions and beliefs of the people. If you are part of an organization where, employees believe that no matter how hard you work, you will not get promoted. No matter how hard you bring, you try and you bring results, you are not going to get, any kind of bonus or recognition. Um, So if those are the kind of assumptions and beliefs of the people, they are not going to, work well together, and transformation is going to be a little more difficult for you. And values, right? How many of you have heard about companies like Zappos or others where they say that the organization values things very, very differently, and therefore the results show up much better. Same about diversity and inclusion, right? There are organizations that are really, really open and they actually celebrate diversity. And there are some where, you look at their leadership team, or you look at, their hierarchy, and it gives you a clear picture of, what, how they value diversity. I'm not going to say more than that, but yeah. And the last one is execution patterns. It's interesting that across the organization you will see that people, and groups execute in a certain way, and that comes a lot of times from top down. How does the executive and leadership team, how do they execute, and it gets relayed down to the teams as well. So a lot of things that you can learn from here. So again, 4 drivers of culture. Now, this is very important. The current state, this is where you are, and the next 2 or 3 slides are going to talk about this. So the 3 phases of change, this is where you are, the current state. Things are not perfect, but you are used to this. You are very comfortable in this state. The next is the transition state, where you are going to go through changes. The organization is going to go through changes. There is going to be a lot of stress and anxiety because it's a VUCA world. There is so many uncertainties there. There are so many things that are unknown there. So many things which are complex there. So you have to go through that stage. And the last one is the future state. A lot of times, organizations, people don't understand what does the future state look like. Okay, we know we are doing waterfall today. We take a year to deliver something, but when we deliver, it's a whole system. I don't know what you're saying by, oh, we're going to have multiple releases and we're just going to work 2 weeks at a time. I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm so confused. So there's a lot of unknowns that happen with transformation, and it's us Agilists who should lead and support that and help your team members to understand better, right? And also the goal is to make transition less painful. With that, the next couple of slides are a bit theoretical, but they are extremely important to know. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go very deep in those, but I want to just introduce those topics. Please go, you can look up more on it, or I'm happy to connect with you afterwards to talk about it. This particular one, which is the satire change model, this was brought together by Virginia Satire, who was actually a family therapist and author. And this model is interesting. She actually put together to help people improve the way they cope with major or unexpected health-related changes. That's how this got started. But then it has made its way into so many different models. So this is a very important one. This is a foundational change management model by Virginia Satire. So just to think about it, what you see on top here, where my cursor is, this is the status quo, and a change is introduced, and then you will meet through resistance, and then performance will drop at that point because they're used to doing things in a certain way. Performance is going to drop And then over time, as you persist through the transformation, it will go up and you will come to a new status quo, a new way of doing things. And that beats the traditional way. And you actually made through the transformation. And you see the performance goes up at that point. But you have to, it will go down before it goes up. So how do you do that? That sounds awesome, but how do you do that? So one is, make sure that you're aligning the goals and the strategic vision that you have for the transformation. Two is become a learning organization, right? Continuous improvement with Kaizen, training and coaching the people, especially when things go down, you have to support them during that time. And then think about when you actually do come out of this zone, what are the new skills that you would need? What are some of the new metrics you would need? So predict that and start training people, and then accelerate once you come down from this slump. You have to put more pressure there. You have, didn't mean to use the word pressure. Put your foot on the gas, and you have to accelerate at this point. And last but not least, once you reach that level, then you have to not just maintain, but do continuous improvement, right? And then spread that across the organization. Most of the transformations happen with a pilot, and they move on. So this is important. And this is Kotter's 8-step. This is definitely a big part of the scaled agile, safe. And there are 8 steps and pretty simple. So please do look this up as well. This is important from a transformation perspective. And if you've heard of ArdCard, this is by Prosy. This talks about how do you make the change is through creating an awareness, creating a desire in people, and sharing the knowledge, and then changing that knowledge into action, and then reinforcing across. So hopefully you learned quite a few things today. And the important thing is you will find people who continue to do things with square wheels. And if you offer them, round wheels and tell them that, hey, round wheels can make you so much more efficient, but the culture doesn't allow you to do that, you have to lead that by helping people change those wheels. And that can happen by changing the assumptions, which lead to changing the behaviors, which will lead to better results for your organization. And now comes down to where and how can you do this? So the 9 areas that you can focus on where you can get the best bang for your buck, but the best return on investment is these, right? Managing the resistance, especially middle manager, proactive communication from top down, definitely investing in training and getting the right coaches in, and executive sponsorship, right? These are some of them which are very important. These give you the best value from a people and culture perspective. So now that you have learned about transformation, you have 2 options. You can, if you're an egg, you have 2 options. One is to hatch and become a beautiful bird, or B, you go bad or you become somebody's omelet. So what do you want to do? It's totally up to you. With that, thank you.
Thanks, Toby, for your insightful session. One thing that stood out is the analogy that you gave between culture and love. Both are both have their multiple definitions, and there is no one agreed upon definitions. I think I'm going to use that in my consulting gigs. When somebody asks me what is culture, then I'm going to say, explain me what is love, then I can answer for this. Thank you for this session. It was amazing. It was amazing to listen to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and there is one question that I see from Abhigyan Dasgupta. Abhigyan wants to know that you mentioned about middle management being most difficult to transform. What are some of the tricks and tips to address this situation?
Yeah, excellent question. So, uh, so slight variance to what I said, but I think it's pretty much. So it's not like they are difficult to transform. You get a lot of resistance from them, and what I've seen as a trend is that leadership and the organization that is being brought, the coaches and others, or the transformation team, they have a lot of communication and they have this plan, and a lot of times those are not shared with others transparently enough. So I think being transparent and including the middle managers, because middle management is so important, right? They are the conduit between the leadership and the senior management to the people who are actually doing the work. And who do the teams trust? They trust their middle managers because they're working with them every day. And to be honest, middle managers' life is actually very difficult, right? They are in between. They get if something goes wrong, they get a lot of pushback from leadership. And then if they don't lead properly or don't share enough, and so many other, they get a lot of grief from people that they lead as well. So including them and making them ambassadors of change, making them change agents is very important. So this is where training comes in. So there are so many different trainings, depends on which flavor you take. This is a Scrum Alliance gathering, so I'm not going to talk about any other organizations here. But even in Scrum Alliance, if you look at the different certifications, there are important ones that you definitely would want your middle managers to go through, right? And a lot of people just default to CSM. There are so many trainings which can really give you so many tools and the power to do the change. So look at the right training for the middle managers and have them go through the training and support them, right? Understand that it is a very difficult position for them. So supporting them but before you do that, get buy-in from them as well. I think that's how that can be made successful.
Thanks, Toby.
Ram, any other questions?
Yeah, there are one other question. Some Kamaldeep Sembe wants to explain 5 points again, second or third from last.
I don't know how much time we have left.
We have 2-3 minutes left. Maybe I don't know if you can just quickly go through the 5 points.
Okay. Yeah, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Which one? Sorry.
Maybe you need to go back again. I guess I'm not sure which one is it, because he said maybe
this one.
Yeah, probably that's the one.
The satire model. Yeah, absolutely. So which part would you like me to go into?
Unfortunately, we can't have the participants to talk.
Speak. Okay. Okay. So I will give you a very high level.
Toby, just Toby, just a minute. He says the one with 5 points. Kamaldeep, I'm not sure which one you're talking about 5 points. Next slide. Can you just scroll? Maybe Atkar. I think he's talking about Atkar, I believe. Is it Atkar?
I see.
Atkar is the one which has got 5.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the Atkar model is from PROSI, which is the world leader in organizational change management, and according to them, the big 5 hurdles that happen is a lack of understanding and appreciation for change management. That's the top big hurdle. Second is organizational resistance to agile. Third is the high volume of incremental change that happens and the pace at which this happens. And fifth one is, like I said, middle management resistance. So the ARCAR model helps you by, right from the very beginning, creating a shared understanding across the board. which means at all tiers, at the team level, where multiple teams are doing the execution, to the project level, to the program level, and then at the leadership level. You have to bring, why are we changing? What are the changes that are going to happen? How will things look tomorrow? That's the awareness that you want to create up front. And then you want engagement. Without engagement, if just leadership wants the change to happen, you know what? The change will never happen, because nobody would want to do it. Because they feel that, okay, it's not my job, it's your job. You do it. Why are you asking me to do it, right? So you want to create a desire in the people who are actually doing the work to change and create some excitement. And how do you do that? That is by really understanding what it takes and supporting that change through knowledge management, by training people. The knowledge that you had yesterday before the transformation began is not going to help you go where we want to, the organization wants you to go. So training people throughout is very important. And last is, once that they have learned these changes, they have learned how to do agile, right? They've gone through some of the certification. That's not enough. You want to now implement that change. So when you go through the training process, so for example, very simple, right? If you teach or if you share knowledge on with a team on how to do, for example, better estimation, right? So you might do a workshop to show them how to do estimation. You want them to implement that in the next sprint. You want them to start using what they have done in the next sprint. And if you as a leader see that, 3 weeks after the training, your team members are saying, oh, 1 point is equal to a day, right? 1 point is equal to a day's worth of work, then you did something wrong. Either the training was not good, or they did not learn, or the training was good, they learned, but they did not implement it. So you want to make sure that the knowledge gets into action. And last one is, when you see the teams which are doing the right things, let's say you did this training on estimation, and one particular team really has taken that, and their predictability has improved. They don't have stories that get pushed out to the next sprint. Then you recognize them and give them, you take them out for dinner or whatever, but recognize that. So that's the ADKAR model, ADKAR.
Okay, thanks, Toby, for the very detailed explanation. We have a few more questions as well, but unfortunately, there is a constraint that we are running out of time because
Okay.
we are starting parallel sessions as well. I
Yep.
want to thank you on behalf of Regional Scrum Gathering Kolkata for taking your time out and sharing your vision, right, your wisdom. Meghna, do you want to?
And I would love for you guys to connect with me. If you want, on the screen, you see the QR code. You can just scan, and please connect with me. I'm happy to answer any other questions in future.